Let me tell you, it's not easy to talk about sadism, because the moment you say the word, people imagine monsters, cruelty, violence, darkness. But the truth is far more complicated and far more human, because sadism isn't always about broken bones or torture rooms. Sometimes it's about the quiet satisfaction someone gets from winning an argument, the smirk when they make someone cry, the peace they feel when they have the upper hand. Pain isn't always physical, and neither is control. Sadism lives on a spectrum. On one end, there's the extreme, the kind we read about in newspapers. But on the other end, there are people we meet every day. People who use teasing as dominance. People who feel powerful when they make others uncomfortable. People who joke in ways that sting, then say you're too sensitive. People who get calm, disturbing calm, when someone else finally breaks. So the question is not, why do sadists hurt people? It's, what makes someone feel safe only when someone else feels small? To understand a sadist, you have to look at their childhood. Because most sadists were once children who had no control at all. Children who felt powerless. Children who watched others decide their worth, their safety, their identity. Some grew up in chaos. Loud homes, unpredictable parents, emotional storms. Some grew up ignored, invisible, neglected, dismissed. And some grew up under perfectionism, where love depended on performance. When a child feels small for too long, they learn two things. 1. Pain is normal. 2. Power is survival. But here is where the path splits. Some children grow up and break the pattern. Others grow up and become the pattern. Sadism is the belief, if I control you, I can finally stop feeling helpless. If I hurt you, I'm not the one being hurt. If I dominate, I don't have to be vulnerable. Because nothing terrifies a sadist more than vulnerability. Emotion is threat. Softness is danger. Love is exposure. To feel is to risk being powerless again. So instead, they choose control. Control becomes oxygen. Dominance becomes comfort. Hurting becomes a shield. A sadist doesn't hurt because it gives them joy. They hurt because it gives them certainty. Certainty that they are above you. Certainty that you won't leave. Certainty that they won't be abandoned, dismissed, or humiliated again. Pain becomes the language they trust, because pain was the language they were taught. And the most dangerous thing about sadists, they don't always look like villains. Some are charismatic. Some are charming. Some are the good friend, the funny one, the confident one. They don't lash out randomly, they choose. Sadism is selective. They hurt where they know it will matter. They break where they know you're soft. Some sadists destroy emotionally. Little cuts disguised as sarcasm. Disappointments disguised as jokes. Punishments disguised as silence. Some destroy psychologically. Gaslighting, guilt trips, humiliation, control through fear. They learn how to twist reality until you question your own mind. And some destroy socially, turning people against you, isolating you, damaging your reputation. But in every form, the core is the same. Power stabilizes what emotion destabilizes. A sadist feels most at peace when someone else is shaken. Their calm grows as your confidence crumbles. Your confusion becomes their clarity. That's why sadistic personalities often appear composed, unbothered, rational. Not because they're strong, but because your pain is regulating their nervous system. Psychologically, sadism overlaps with narcissism, the need for superiority, psychopathy, emotional coldness, insecurity, fear of being powerless, attachment trauma, learned distrust of intimacy, repressed emotion, feelings transformed into dominance, control addiction, stability achieved through manipulation. But here's the twist. Not all sadists enjoy harming others. Some hate themselves for it. Some don't even recognize the pattern. And some grew up in homes where gentleness was never modeled, so they don't know any other way to interact. They aren't trying to destroy, they're trying to survive. Because deep down, beneath the armor, beneath the composure and the cruelty, there is something fragile. A child who believed pain was the only safe emotion. A child who grew up thinking connection was earned through fear, not love. So how does a sadist love? With caution, with distance, with tests, with control, with pain that they believe is protection. They love by trying to guarantee they will never feel small again. When they see vulnerability in someone else, they don't see beauty, they see danger. So they do what they've always done. They crush what they can't afford to feel. And here is where jealousy enters. Jealousy is the sadist's most familiar emotion, not because they want what you have, but because they fear what they cannot control. They fear your independence, your strength, your confidence, your potential to leave. So they break it, or belittle it, or sabotage it, not to win, but to stop feeling threatened. The sadist doesn't want your pain. They want your dependency, your fear, your emotional surrender, your acceptance of their dominance. Because if you rely on them, you won't abandon them. If you fear them, you won't challenge them. If you hurt for them, you won't hurt them. That is the twisted logic of a wounded mind. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Sadists are not born, they are constructed. Constructed from shame. Constructed from helplessness. Constructed from emotional deprivation. Constructed from being told again and again, you are weak. You are worthless. You are nothing. Their cruelty is not confidence, it's compensation. So is there healing? Only if they confront the one thing they've spent their entire life avoiding, their own pain. Only if they see control as fear, violence as vulnerability, dominance as insecurity. Only if they stop rewriting their trauma onto other people's lives. But healing a sadist isn't romantic. It isn't simple. It requires empathy without enabling, boundaries without hatred, distance without cruelty. Sadism can only dissolve when the person realizes that control is not safety, and vulnerability is not death. The saddest truth? Behind every sadist is someone who once begged for mercy, and didn't receive it. Someone who cried and was mocked. Someone who broke and was blamed. Someone who learned that the world only respects strength. So they decided to become stronger than their own humanity. They aren't monsters. They're survivors who lost their softness in the process. And the tragedy is this. They wanted protection and became the threat. But just as pain can turn compassion into cruelty, self-awareness can turn cruelty back into compassion. Control can become calm. Dominance can become boundaries. Fear can become truth. And pleasure in another's pain can become peace in one's own healing. Because the real power was never in hurting others. It was in finally facing themselves. That is the psychology of the sadist. A story not of monsters, but of wounded children who learned the wrong lesson about what it takes to survive.